All right, everybody. Game just wrapped up like 15 seconds ago. Just went final, and we're not going undefeated. Seahawks are not going undefeated. They fall in a game that went kinda the way that I was expecting, maybe a little bit more extreme, but basic idea of this game I think was in line with expectations as a fan and as somebody who was really trying to understand what this game would be. And the game was about the things for the most part that I thought it would be about. So 42 to 29. Now that score's a little bit funky because some weird stuff happened at the end of the game. There was a substantial amount of garbage time in this game, or pseudo garbage time, however you want to put it. So some of the numbers are going to be a little bit skewed, but it does do a pretty good job of telling the story of this game, right? So this post-game video, by the way, is being powered by BetUS. More on them a little bit later. But first, just to speak generally, Seahawks, I'm pretty proud of them tonight. I am. And things are going to be said over the next few days. It's not going to be for very long because we've got a quick turnaround to another game on Sunday afternoon. We got these Giants coming in, but I want to say that before we get to all the negative stuff, and there's going to be some negative stuff said about this team this week, and justifiably so. I'm not dismissing all of it. But I am proud of the way this team fought. I'm proud of the way this team gave themselves a chance in the fourth quarter. They were in that game late, and you could make an argument. I'm not saying it is, but you could make an argument that the Seattle Seahawks were a mistake or two away from winning that game. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I'll get into why a little bit later. But you could make an argument that one or two plays decided this game. And I'm not upset about going into Detroit on Monday Night Football with all these injuries and being in a spot like that. I'm just not. So, before anything else be said, I want to say I'm proud. Well, let's say we're proud of the offense, right? Because there's only so much cover I can provide for the defense, and they deserve to be lambasted a little bit for this one. There was some stuff out there that wasn't okay, but the offense, wow. I mean, they tried. They left it pretty much all on the field. There were some mistakes, but you're going to make mistakes when you know you have no margin for error, and the team had no margin for error today. So, in front of everything else, despite how embarrassing some elements of that game were, I want to say I'm proud of them. So, realistically, the offense, I mean, 500 yards. I know a lot of that, well, not a lot of it, but a chunk of it was in garbage time. I understand that. I get that. Gino had over 400 yards of offense, and some of that was garbage time, but he was still at like about 350 before garbage time hit. So, Gino played a great game. That was about as good a game as you're going to see a quarterback play in this league, I think. Doing it with an offensive line that was maybe average. I don't think so. Average is the nicest I could say about them. Better than last week, I kind of felt like. I felt like the offensive line was better, but still a lot of work to do up front. You can see they're starting to make steps in the right direction, but a lot of work to be done if they actually want to get to the point where they're good. I know that there's going to be some second, what do they call it? Monday morning quarterbacking on some of the play calling with all the passing we did. We passed the ball like 3 times as much as we ran the ball, and we ran the ball fairly effectively, although it was kind of feast or famine, it felt like. But I didn't have a big problem with it. I felt like with the way the game script was going and the way Detroit's offense was going, we needed to throw the ball early and often because we just weren't going to be able to keep up otherwise. So I don't have a big problem with it. And the play designs, beautiful stuff. Some of the stuff that Grubb was doing on the screen passes and the misdirection, like the play to Chenault, you had some of the Bobo catches. You're seeing some of that stuff that you saw from the University of Washington come out. And it is a sight to behold. And while we lost, and while there were clear and obvious mistakes made on offense, I did come out of this game feeling like Ryan Grubb is going to be good for us. All right, real quick, before we go any further, I want to talk to you about my friends over at BetUS. They are the best online sportsbook and casino in the business. You can head over there right now. Get to betting on week number 5 already. You want to get the feeling of this loss out of your stomach, go over there, check out the lines, check out the money lines, check out over-unders. Seahawks game going to be posted very soon, I'm sure. Go ahead and bet on the Seahawks to get revenge, or at the very least, some recovery from this loss. Right now, you can get a 150% deposit bonus if you use promo code YouTube150 on your first deposit up to $2,000, and then you get 125% deposit bonus on your second and third deposits up to $2,000. Check out BetUS, best sportsbook and casino on the internet. Give them a shot, and hey, Seahawks probably in for a recovery game. Bet accordingly. But anyway, back to the offense. I love the designs out there. I loved a lot of the stuff that they were doing on a schematic level. A lot of plays where receivers are just running wide open. A lot of plays where it just feels like somebody got schemed open. A lot of understanding of how to manufacture yards. And obviously, there is a little bit of an element of game flow here, where the way the game went on the other side of the ball kind of dictated that Seattle was going to have to score a bunch to keep up. I understand that. I get that. But, man, it's exciting to see this start to come together. We finally had a successful Laviska Shenault play. We had some successful bootlegs to the tight end that are basically free yards. The A.J. Barner plays, free money, easy money out there. I like that stuff a lot. It was great to see Ken Walker back out there. I don't think he played an amazing game, but his numbers are good, and he did make several big plays in this game. One or two plays where I felt like maybe he wasn't completely himself. He made a bad decision, but real good to see him back. Love the way we mixed it up in the backfield there with him and Charbonnet. Really like that mix of those two guys, and I thought both guys were used very successfully overall in this game. We got a little bit of a decision at right guard. I don't know what we do, because Haynes did look a little bit better in this game than he has before. I didn't notice him stand out in a really obviously negative way. Maybe I'll rewatch the game and notice something different, but I thought that I thought that situation looked a little bit better. There were still issues, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the issues came on the head of Aiden Hutchinson, and he's just going to be a problem for you. So, better, right? We're taking some strides here. Gino's still getting hit way too much, don't get me wrong. There's still some bad moments. But I'm very excited about where this offense is headed. Tonight's game really came... The thing that held us back from keeping up with Detroit in full were mistakes. And really, we're talking about 3 mistakes. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to call him out on a day where he put up good numbers. Like, he had the numbers. And he did get screwed out of a 2-point conversion where he got his knee down. Refs didn't call it. Okay. But I got to call him out because this game, in terms of the limiting factors on the offense, comes down to really 3 mistakes. A DK Metcalf fumble, a DK Metcalf drop on 3rd down, or maybe it won't go down as an official drop, but he absolutely had a chance to catch that ball, and a DK Metcalf holding penalty that was a little bit thin, but I think it was legitimate, so there. Those are 3 drives that resulted in no points that could have easily resulted in 7 if DK doesn't make those mistakes. The way this game was going, they probably would have. And do the math. That accounts for more than your final deficit. So, I'm a big DK Metcalf fan, but the fumbles on plays where he's fighting to get an extra half yard are getting really old. I'm sorry. He's a little too old at this point to be doing that, and me to be just okay with it. It was one thing when he was doing it in 2019, but for him to be doing it in 2024 is... I don't really know how else to describe it other than to just call it very frustrating. Because you see the talent. You see the great plays. And you saw them in this game. And he's had a great start to the season so far. He had what was basically a touchdown on a remarkable go route where you just see how dangerous he is for these opposing offenses and how much of a deadly opposing defenses, excuse me, and how much of a deadly threat he really is, how it's so hard to defend him. But you've got a drop, you've got a fumble, and you've got a penalty that were the main reasons why 3 drives stalled into 0 points, when the way Gino was playing in this game, the way we were running the ball, and the way the offense was moving in general, probably goes for 7 if those mistakes don't happen. So there's not much defending that, and I don't want him to stop being who he is, right? I don't. But there is an understanding of a time and a place, and he just doesn't need to be fighting for an extra half yard. We're not even talking about he's trying to fight his way into the end zone. He's got the first down. The play's over. You're fighting for an extra half yard that means nothing, and the ball gets punched out. It's something that we saw 5 years ago, and it was like, okay, he's young. It's like, come on, guys. Come on. Yeah, now it needs to stop. So that felt like the ultimate turning point in this game, really. I will say this for that. I will admit this. I kind of feel like, I'm just going to admit it, I kind of feel like if the Seahawks offense had not made those mistakes, and they had stayed on the field, and they had scored the touchdown on those 3 drives, I kind of feel like the defense would have just given up more points until we lost anyway. Or it would have come down to like a coin toss in OT, right? Because the Lions scored 42 points in this game. They made it look easy for the most part. But I feel like if they needed to score 45, they would have scored 45. If they needed to score 50, they would have scored 50. 55, they could have gotten it. 60, they could have gotten it. Because, yeah, the defense was pretty hard to defend. So, admittedly, I'll give the offense that. I think that even if they don't make those mistakes and play pretty much perfect football, they would have still lost because of the way Detroit could get whatever they wanted. But that doesn't necessarily excuse the mistake. And now we'll never know, right? Because those mistakes were made. And that does get us to the defense here. And while I did critique a couple of elements of the offense, let's be very clear here. This loss is 1,000,000% on the defense for playing an embarrassingly bad game. And it's really hard for me to get angry about it. I want to be clear about that. And I think that if you are a Seahawks fan that is going to kill the defense this week, make sure that you understand when to pull back a little bit on the lever, because think about what they had to work through. You've got no edge rush except for a little bit from Derek Hall, who, by the way, that was an awesome sack that he pulled off in this game. Really, really monstrous stuff. He looks like he is really, truly breaking out into a very, very good player for this team. But you've got none of your top 2 edge rushers. You've got nothing in the middle because your top 2 guys are out. Jerome Baker did not play in this game, by the way. He was a scratch. So 5 of your front 7 guys are out. Those are your 5 primary front 7 players. Like, to a certain point, at a certain point, what do you think you're going to do, right? That takes away your edge rush. That takes away your push up the middle. I know Detroit didn't end up running the ball on us, like, massively so, but when the game really felt like it was in question, it did feel like they could get whatever they wanted on the ground, and we could barely breathe on Goff. Other than the 3 plays where we actually sacked him, and maybe like 2 or 3 other plays the whole game, felt like Goff just had all day back there. So what are you going to do? So you're not going to catch me being too mad about this one. I'm sorry, you're just not. I don't know how Seahawks fans are reacting to this game as a whole. I understand that it's embarrassing to have Goff go perfect on you. I understand that it's embarrassing to have Amon-Ra St. Brown hit Goff for a touchdown pass. I understand that it's embarrassing to have all these things happen. I get it. Believe me. I am a little bit embarrassed. And there are some players on this defense that are going to get roasted this week. Deservedly so. Witherspoon, I don't know what the heck that was. There were some really ugly plays out there on Witherspoon's head. Coverage and tackling. Gibson, like what the heck was that? Like so slow out there, unbelievable. Gets outrun by Jared Goff as an edge rusher. Like, come on. There's some bad stuff out there, but I can't get that mad. So I don't know if somebody was coming here expecting me to get all mad. I'm just, it's not going to happen. You're playing in Detroit. You're playing in that dome. Detroit's offense, super locked in. Goff played a great game. Those Detroit receivers played a great game as well. Laporta, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams. Just awesome. They were locked in, but what chance do you have? And then you lose a Julian Love about halfway through this game. So that's 6 of your most important players on defense, right? The only guys that you still have that are like really, really the top guys on the defense, the top dogs, would be Dodson, Woolen, and Witherspoon. And Witherspoon may as well have been Eli Apple today, honestly. So I just, I don't know. I was very chill watching this game. I was very calm. I wasn't getting upset or anything. I wasn't shocked by it. Maybe it went a little bit too far. 42 points, that's rough. No turnovers forced, no incompletions forced. Detroit goes 19 of 19 throwing the ball. You get 3 sacks and basically no QB pressure outside of it. I get it. Like, it's embarrassing, and some of the stuff is not okay. If you want to say that Mike McDonald got his pants pulled down by Ben Johnson, you have a point, right? I'm not dismissing it. I'm not ignoring everything that went down. Mike McDonald was unable to get meaningful pressure with his blitz packages. And we sent a couple, and when we did, Detroit just had us. Detroit just had us dead. So he got outcoached. He did. But that's part of the process of a young coach trying to make his way in this league. So I wasn't a big fan of the way this game was called overall, but I think by the end of the game, it had mostly evened out. There were a couple of really big calls on that one drive where Seattle had the ball down 8 and they were driving. And you could point to that and say that was the real point in the game where it was over. 2 penalties taken away first downs. The Lockett one, I didn't really agree with. But again, does Detroit just keep scoring until the game is over? I think so. So I'm not going to trip on it. Unlike a lot of people I saw on social media, I liked going for 2. I just didn't like not challenging the DK Metcalf catch because it was a catch, I think, and it should have counted. But I like the decision. I don't have a problem with it. So, yeah. Stream a little bit later, but overall, yeah, I'm not unhappy. Just a little bit rough in some areas. Once again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Remember, always gamble responsibly.